You did the dishes, you picked up the child, you bought the groceries. So why is your partner still exhausted and still angry? Because you completed 3 tasks. They may have carried the responsibility for noticing that all 3 needed to happen. Here is the uncomfortable test. If your partner has to tell you what to do, remind you when to do it, and check whether you did it, the task was never fully yours. You were helping, they were managing. And that invisible difference may explain why a home can look 50-50 on paper while one person feels permanently on call. A 2023 systematic review calls this mental labor, the largely invisible cognitive work involved in managing a home and caring for children. Across 31 studies, 5 features kept appearing: thinking, managing, serving shared family goals, anticipating future needs, and remaining mostly unseen. Think about what happens before anyone takes a child to the doctor. Someone notices a symptom, decides whether it can wait, finds the clinic, checks the calendar, makes the appointment, remembers the insurance information, plans transportation, packs what the child needs, rearranges work, and remembers to follow up afterward. Driving to the clinic is visible. Almost everything that made the trip possible is not. That is why counting chores can miss the real imbalance. 2 partners may perform a similar number of visible tasks while only one keeps the entire system running in their head. It is like having dozens of browser tabs open, except the tabs say, "Are there enough clean clothes for tomorrow? What is left in the refrigerator? When does the school form need to be returned? Who needs a dentist appointment? What are we bringing to the birthday party on Saturday?" None of these thoughts looks like work from the outside, but each unfinished intention can return while you are answering an email, resting on the sofa, or trying to fall asleep. Psychologists call part of this prospective memory remembering to perform an action in the future. You are not simply remembering what happened. You are trying to remember what must happen next and when. Mental labor is not exactly the same thing as cognitive load. In the review's framework, cognitive load is one possible consequence. When one person must repeatedly monitor future tasks, switch attention, and keep plans available, that responsibility can consume mental bandwidth. This does not mean every forgotten grocery item damages the brain, and it does not mean all families divide work in the same way. But across the studies in the review, women generally carried more mental labor, particularly around childcare and parenting decisions. They also reported more stress, lower relationship or life satisfaction, and career-related disadvantages associated with that unequal burden. The authors do not explain this as an innate female talent for remembering lunchboxes. They point to social roles and gender expectations. Girls and women are often taught, directly and indirectly, that noticing other people's needs, maintaining relationships, and preventing household problems are part of being a good woman. Over time, responsibility can become internalized. One person thinks, "If this is forgotten, I failed." The other thinks, "If you need help, just tell me." The second sentence may sound cooperative, but it leaves the first person in charge of noticing, deciding, delegating, and supervising. One partner becomes the household manager, the other becomes an employee waiting for instructions, and sometimes the employee expects praise for completing a task the manager had to mentally carry from beginning to end. This is why "just ask me" often fails as a solution. Asking is itself part of the work. Real ownership is different from assistance. If you own the laundry, you do not merely run the machine when reminded. You notice when clothes are running low. You know what requires special washing. You replace detergent before it is empty. You fold the clothes, put them away, and solve the missing sock mystery without creating a new management task for someone else. If you own part of childcare, you learn where things are. You know the routines, sizes, foods, appointments, school messages, and supplies relevant to that area. You make reasonable decisions without treating your partner as a search engine. The practical unit of fairness is not a single chore, it is a complete domain of responsibility. That domain includes noticing, planning, deciding, doing, and following up. This does not require a perfectly symmetrical household. Different couples have different schedules, abilities, preferences, incomes, and caregiving demands. Fair does not always mean identical. It does mean the arrangement should be visible, discussable, and genuinely owned, not quietly stored in one person's head. A useful conversation begins with a different question, not, who did more chores this week? But, which parts of our life can one of us stop thinking about because the other truly owns them? The review also has limits. Many included studies focused on heterosexual middle-class couples in the United States and Europe. The field uses different definitions and methods, and more longitudinal, experimental, and cross-cultural research is needed. So this is not a universal scorecard for blaming men or idealizing women. It is a better lens for seeing work that ordinary chore lists erase. The goal is not to make invisible labor visible so that couples can argue more precisely. The goal is to redistribute responsibility so that both people get something more valuable than a perfectly divided checklist, the experience of being off duty.